I will try to give as much backstory and context to this as I can, without making this post too long. My wife and I have been married for 11 years, and we have a 7-year-old daughter. About 8 years ago, I fell into something of a depression. I say it like that because it wasn't deep enough that anyone around me recognized it as depression. To me, at the time, it seemed more like I had lost my purpose. We were going to buy a business, the deal fell through, and I had spent so much time thinking and dreaming about how great it would be to work for myself doing something I actually enjoyed, instead of working on the production floor of a factory, which I loathed. I won't get into it much more than that, but while I was down in the dumps, my wife was miserable. She was not unfaithful, but she no longer had her best friend, which we were even before we started dating. A little background on my wife. She was adopted by her maternal grandparents, and nobody seemed to know who her biological father was. Even her birth mother claimed she didn't know. We later found out that not only did she know, but that she and her husband at the time my wife was born worked very hard to conceal who her father was for no apparent reason. That is just how messed up in the head her birth mom was. Fast forward to 5 years ago. My wife's biological father reached out to her via a Facebook message. His mom had come up with a partial DNA match to my wife on Ancestry, and he asked if he could talk to her on the phone. He revealed that he was her father on the phone call. It really is a beautiful story. They are a lot alike. They are both artistic, both love the outdoors, both are pretty good amateur photographers, and they even think the same way. I loved watching my wife gush about all the things they had in common and that he was all of the things she has always wished for in a dad. She once wrote a letter to Santa asking him to bring her a dad who, like her, loved animals and liked to be outside and liked to draw. I was genuinely happy for her and I loved being part of it. Unfortunately, all of this was happening as I was finally starting to come out of my depression. All of the things that she was wanting to do with her dad were things that I wanted to do with her. I felt like I had lost so much time while I was in depression, feeling sorry for myself, and now my wife didn't seem interested in doing anything with me. She wanted it to be her and her dad. Until this point, I was not a jealous person at all. Whenever my wife would mention that someone hit on her or was checking her out, I took it as a compliment, unless they made her feel unsafe. But with her dad in the picture, I became very insecure. That insecurity caused me to behave in ways that I am not proud of. On top of that, her dad and his wife tended to be very critical of me. Never to my face, but my wife would tell me some of the things that they said, and I felt like I was constantly under a microscope whenever I was around them, which made me even more uneasy and more prone to say things or act in ways that might put some people off. Every summer, her dad and his wife go up North Michigan and spend 2 weeks in a cabin on a small lake. They kayak, paddleboard, etc. In 2020, they invited my wife to come up there for a few days, and they invited me and my daughter up there for a night. The next year, I was invited for 2 nights. I found out later that my wife had to convince them to let me come at all because apparently I had made them uncomfortable the year before and several times since. After the second year, her dad decided that I would no longer be welcome on their vacations. I know that this is tearing my wife apart, but she feels like there is nothing she can do. But she insists on continuing to spend a week plus up there with them, despite the fact that I'm not welcome, even though I have offered to take her up there for a week when her parents aren't there. She is open to that, but refuses to give up her vacations with her dad and his wife. So, to my question, am I the jerk for wanting to leave my wife because of this? Our marriage has had its ups and downs. I struggled for a long time with an addiction to intimacy videos, which I know hurt her more than a few times. We have been in counseling for almost 4 years, and I have felt, until recently, that we were on the upswing. I felt like our relationship was almost to what it was before my depression. But a few weeks ago, the vacation trip came up, and I have been hurting so much I haven't been able to think about much else since. I love her more than anything, and my heart is breaking, but it feels like her dad is being very petty. One of the times I apparently made things awkward was when I was slightly hungover, and so was he. And he accused me of being antisocial and making him uncomfortable. From my point of view, my wife is essentially allowing him to have his cake and eat it too, because he gets to spend time on vacation with her and doesn't have to put up with me, potentially making an awkward moment and making him uncomfortable. Again, I have no issue with the fact that my wife wants to do things and spend time with her dad. My only issue is the fact that she is still going to spend a week plus up there with them, when I am specifically not welcome. If my parents ever wanted me to go on a trip with them, but they told me that my wife was not welcome, whether she wanted to go or not, I would tell them to go frick themselves and that I wasn't going. Update. I will put this up here so that everyone can see it. I think it's funny how some of you have made some huge leaps about my life, about what kind of husband I have been, and even about what kind of father I am. I have a good relationship with my daughter. She is a daddy's girl and she is my sweetie pie. That is all I will say about her because she has nothing to do with any of this. Yes, I have hurt my wife. It was never intentional and always regretted, and we were usually able to talk things out. That being said, my wife has also hurt me. Never intentionally, and again, we were usually able to work it out. Let me be clear about one thing. I am not an aggressor, nor am I delusional. I have never and would never hit my wife. I am also not an emotional aggressor. I'm not sure what leads some people to believe that I am trying to emotionally isolate my wife from her dad so that he can't help her escape me. But it isn't true. In fact, in my post, I said that I am happy for her, and I do not want her to give up her relationship with him. I also said that I would never force her to choose between him and me, and I mean that. I am not threatening her with divorce as some kind of manipulation. I can tell that some of the people on here have been the victims of physical and emotional abuse, and my heart truly goes out to you. I love my wife. I have been with my wife through thick and thin, and she would say the same. I have not been a perfect husband because I am human. She has not been a perfect wife because she is also human. Some more facts. I am no longer addicted to intimacy videos. I have been completely sober in that regard for a couple of years now. I still see a counselor, and he keeps me accountable for that and helps me through other things as well. My struggle with intimacy videos didn't negatively affect my behavior in social interactions. I am not a deviant, I had an addiction. I understand that for some, a corn addiction can lead to that kind of behavior. My wife's maternal grandfather was one of them. He was constantly having affairs, always had corn stashed on his computer, and he liked to interact with cam girls. He also sexually molested my wife from age 12 to 16. My wife married me knowing about my corn addiction, and my addiction has nothing to do with why my father-in-law is uncomfortable around me. People also keep saying that I'm clearly hiding something or purposely leaving out details that would make him look bad. I'm not. I'm not trying to hide anything. The only reason I left out examples of what made my father-in-law uncomfortable is that I was trying to keep the length of my post down. When I said that I wasn't proud of a lot of my behavior, it was because a lot of it was childish. I was in a bad place mentally and emotionally. I am not using that as an excuse, and I know that I have to take responsibility for my actions, and I do, but I seriously look back at some of it and shake my head, hardly believing that was me. My wife once described it as me being like a kid in the sandbox who didn't want to share his dump truck. It's embarrassing because that is not the type of person I am. Since many of you want specific examples, here are some. They don't understand my sense of humor. Faux example, the first thing I ever said to my father-in-law was, "Well, you're early." They came over to our house for dinner, and we weren't quite ready for them yet. My wife and I wanted to make a good impression by having the house immaculate and the garage door closed, because the garage was kind of a mess. Well, they showed up about 20 minutes earlier than expected with me in the driveway and the garage door wide open. I was nervous and tense, and I have a tendency to try to break tension with humor sarcasm. My father-in-law does not get sarcasm. At all. I understand that not everyone does, but usually the ones who don't will kind of pick up on the fact that I'm being funny, even if they don't get it. He genuinely believed that I was being a jerk, and that I was upset that they were early. He never said anything to me about it, but he mentioned it to my wife several times over the course of the next few months. The same sort of thing happened quite often because I have a black belt in sarcasm. It's part of my personality. And often my wife would get asked, "Does he really think that?" To which she always had to respond with, "No, he was being sarcastic." She even told me that even after she told them that she could tell I wasn't getting the benefit of the doubt. Another example is my tendency to get quiet when I'm uncomfortable or when something is bothering me. I'm not much of a social person to begin with, but if I'm uncomfortable, I have a tendency to shut down. It is something I've worked on and has even been an issue in my marriage. My wife is the kind of person who will let you know when something you did or said bothers her. I don't like confrontation, and I would rather bury it until I get over it. I know it's not healthy, but that is the way I have always been, which is why I still have to work on it to this day. Also, when my wife and I were around them, they always seemed to talk about things that they had talked about with my wife when I wasn't around, so I had no idea what they were talking about. And since I didn't know what they were talking about, I didn't have anything to contribute to the conversation, so I stayed quiet. This, they tended to take as me being antisocial. I also tend to be a man of few words. If I don't feel like something needs to be said, I won't say it. I am also told I have the male equivalent of a resting witch face. So if I'm sitting there with my resting face, not saying anything I don't feel needs to be said, they think that I must be upset about something, and that makes them uncomfortable. My wife would often complain about them telling her that I was so hard to read. Not when I was being sarcastic, I would have taken that as a compliment, but when I was just sitting there not saying anything. Even my wife says that her dad is weirdly sensitive to things that most people would just shrug off, and that he has a hard time letting things go, hence the first 3 words I ever said to him. She has also expressed that she wishes that I was welcome at the cabin with them, but it is their vacation, and she can't control them. She also said that it is not her fault that I'm not welcome there, so she didn't see why she should have to suffer for my actions. Despite me saying that I would be willing to go up there with her for a week when her parents weren't there, I do not want to divorce her, but I truly feel like she is purposely abandoning me here because it doesn't seem to matter if she goes on vacation with me or not. We didn't last year. But she refuses to give up her week-long vacation with her dad. At least a couple of you have suggested that this is something that should be talked through and brought up in counseling. My wife and I have talked about this at length many times, and it always ends the same way. It has also come up in counseling, and I'm sure as the trip approaches, it will come up again. I truly hope that we can work this out, but it seems like we keep getting stuck on this issue. It hurts me deeply that she doesn't seem to have a problem with me not being welcome, because if I'm being honest, I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself on a vacation if I knew that my wife wanted to come. But my parents said they didn't want her to, regardless of the reason. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. We have been in counseling for almost 4 years, and I have felt, until recently, that we were on the upswing. I felt like our relationship was almost to what it was before my depression. Brother, you may be feeling your relationship was on the upswing, but I can bet she wasn't feeling this way. Looks like her acceptance of your exclusion from the trip is a little insight into how she really feels. The kind of stuff that hasn't come out in counseling. Sounds like you all need to get another session scheduled. Comment 2. You're the idiot. She is stuck by you through an intimacy videos addiction and depression, but you want to leave her because she goes on vacation with her dad for a week. You admitted you were jealous of her dad. Something tells me that you are intentionally leaving out what you did to make them uncomfortable to be around you. I have a feeling you would be doing your wife a favor if you actually left her, but I think you are using this as a threat to manipulate her into not going on the trip. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So much has happened since my last post, and I need to get it off my chest. The tension between my wife and me reached a boiling point when her dad announced he was throwing a grand family reunion. Everyone was invited, except me. It was like a slap in the face. My wife, torn between us, decided to go without me. I was left to stew in my own thoughts, feeling more isolated than ever. During her absence, I discovered something that turned everything on its head. I found out that her dad had been bad-mouthing me to other family members, spreading lies about my character. It was a calculated move to push me out of the picture. I was livid, to say the least. I confronted my wife about it when she returned. The confrontation was ugly, with accusations flying and old wounds reopened. She admitted she knew about the bad-mouthing, but didn't want to cause a rift between her newfound father and herself. I felt betrayed, like our marriage was second to her relationship with him. But I wasn't going to let this slide. I needed to clear my name and show her dad for who he really was. I gathered evidence of his lies and deceit, and at the next family gathering, which I wasn't officially invited to but crashed anyway, I laid it all out in front of everyone. The room went silent as the truth came to light. The aftermath was chaotic. Some family members were shocked, others were in denial. My wife was mortified. caught between her loyalty to her dad and the undeniable truth of his actions. It was a mess, but I felt a sense of vindication. Then, in a surprising turn of events, my wife's dad did something unexpected. He apologized. Not just a half-hearted apology, but a full-on, sincere admission of guilt. He confessed to feeling threatened by my presence and the bond I shared with my wife. It was a moment of raw honesty that no one saw coming. The family was divided on how to react. Some forgave him, others didn't. But for me, it was a moment of triumph. My wife, seeing her dad's true colors, finally understood the pain I'd been going through. She apologized for not standing by me and promised to make things right. We're still working through the aftermath, with counseling sessions more intense than ever. It's not easy, but we're both committed to repairing our marriage. The whole ordeal has been interesting to say the least of emotions, but I'm hopeful that we're on the path to healing. Thanks for reading this update. My girlfriend plans a luxurious trip with her best friend for her birthday, but ignores my 30th, so when she cheats with a coworker and expects me to move for her new job, I pack her bags and send her packing alone. My 29-year-old boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. Her best friend, who we'll call Jay, messaged my girlfriend, female 30, the other day, and asked if she wanted to go on a girls' trip for Jay's birthday. My girlfriend texted me and asked if I was okay with it. I told her we would talk about it later when I finished work. When I got home, I asked her about it. She said Jay wanted to go somewhere warm for her birthday, and they would leave a few days after my birthday. I said it was okay because she deserves time with her friends and she doesn't often get to see them. I also assumed somewhere warm meant places like Florida or the Carolinas for a few days. Last night, we were out to dinner, and my girlfriend proceeded to tell me that Jay sent her some details about where they were going to stay. Turns out they're going to a resort in Aruba that costs $700 per night, and they're going for a week. I immediately became upset about this. This year is my 30th birthday, which is a big milestone for me, just like it was for her last year. I've expressed this to her. For her birthday last year, I spent months planning and booking a 2-week vacation to Nashville. I made sure her birthday was special. Meanwhile, my birthday is in 2 months, and she asked me only once a few weeks ago what I wanted to do. I said, I don't know, because I didn't know what options were available. And because we are planning our yearly vacation for the end of the year, I assumed travel was off the table since I was putting all of my spare cash into it. I didn't say anything at first because I didn't want to ruin dinner, so I just ate quietly while she showed me and told me about this $700 per night resort. On the ride home, my girlfriend asked me why I wasn't excited about her trip. I told her, well, you know it's my 30th birthday this year. She said she knew that and asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday. I said I didn't realize travel was an option given our budget constraints, our upcoming vacation, and our mortgage, and we hadn't discussed it. She then started suggesting all these things we could do for my birthday, like going to a rage room or taking a weekend trip to a nearby town, and she talked about how cool and great those ideas would be. At that point, the alcohol I had consumed during dinner made me lose my self-restraint, and I snapped back, "It won't be as great as your tropical vacation with Jay, will it?" I could tell she was immediately hurt. What I said to her is inexcusable, and I know that. She told me she was going to text Jay and tell her she couldn't go because she could tell I was going to have a problem with it. Then she immediately changed the subject, and I decided to drop it for the rest of the night. To clarify, I don't care if she goes on a week-long trip with her friends. She deserves to have fun too. It's not about the price of things. Her gifts to me aren't worth less because they're not expensive. However, she always complains that everything I want costs between $100 and $500, so she never buys things for me. I'm fine with that. I just buy them myself. But what bothers me is that she constantly complains about my expensive tastes that she doesn't have to pay for, yet she's willing to spend $6,000 plus on a trip to Aruba with Jay on a whim. I would have more money saved for travel this year, but I bought her an engagement ring, which was not a small expense, and wiped out my savings. She earns considerably more money than me, so it's not as big of a deal for her to spend that kind of money, I guess. This is Jay's 32nd birthday, not exactly a milestone year. I'm just upset that I put so much care and thought into her 30th birthday last year, and now it feels like mine is an afterthought. Plus, no matter what we do for my birthday, it feels like it will be overshadowed by her awesome trip to Aruba a few days later, and that hurts. I don't believe that money equals love, but it's hard not to feel bad when your partner is willing to spend a lot of money on someone else's birthday and not yours. Am I the jerk? Edit. I know there are more conversations to be had, and I plan to talk to her more when we're home from work. I want to address that I'm not mad about the money. I'm mad about the difference between my birthday and someone else's. Plus, she hasn't shown any interest in planning anything for my birthday so far. I'm mostly upset about the lack of effort. I said I don't know when she asked me a couple weeks ago because I don't want to assume what she's willing to spend on me. Her birthday trip was my idea. I don't feel right asking for a week-long tropical vacation or some other expensive thing, especially considering I can't afford to pay for half of it. She's usually unwilling to spend a couple $100s on me, so why would I assume it's okay to ask for something that costs several $1,000s? If she had asked if I wanted to travel, that would have been entirely different since it was her idea. Many of you are concerned about my finances, to the point where someone referred me to the personal finance subreddit. Let me assure you that my bills are paid, my lifestyle is maintained, I have enough in savings to cover emergencies, and I donate when I can. What I was trying to say is that I can't afford 2 vacations and an engagement ring all in the same year without jeopardizing my financial stability. A trip to Aruba sounds great until our boiler fails and we don't have the money to fix it. I'm trying to be somewhat responsible. Thank you all for your insight. It has helped me see some other sides to this issue, so I can approach my conversation with my girlfriend later with new insight. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. It seems like you need to think about whether or not you actually want to be giving S this engagement ring. I get it because I sometimes feel the same way about my husband, that I'd be happy to spend whatever to make my partner happy, or if I want something, then I'll pay. But my husband isn't the same way. He'll claim he's the more frugal one but then spends money on a whim. But I won't exactly complain since I'm of the mindset it's your money, so do what you want with it. If your expectation is to have a partner who does equal to or as close to equal as you on spending for important moments such as this, maybe S isn't the right person. If she thinks that going to a rage room or a weekend getaway is the equivalent of a 2-week 30th birthday celebration vacation, I don't think that's fair at all. You're definitely not the idiot. Comment 2. You need to fully express all of this to her, if you haven't. It's not about the money, it's about the effort. Months planning a 2-week vacation and spoiling someone is not the same effort as, I don't know, maybe a rage room or a weekend trip, with zero thought attached to it. She's planning on dropping $6,000 for her friend's birthday trip and complains that things you want might cost $100. She is not putting even close to the amount of effort into your relationship. Now, for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. A lot has happened since the last post. So after the whole Aruba thing blew over, I thought we were on the same page. My girlfriend even started planning a small getaway for my birthday, which was nice. But then, out of nowhere, she drops a news. She's been offered a promotion at work, which is great, except it's in another state. She wants to take it, and she wants me to move with her. Now, I've got a decent job here, my family is close by, and I've lived in this town my whole life. The thought of leaving it all behind is daunting. But she's talking about this like it's a done deal, like I don't even have a say in the matter. I feel like I'm being dragged along for the ride, and it's making me resent her a bit. Then Jay comes back into the picture. She's been a constant presence, always texting and calling my girlfriend. I've tried to be cool about their friendship, but it's getting harder, especially when I found out that Jay knew about the job offer before I did. That stung. It felt like a betrayal. My girlfriend and I are supposed to be a team, but she's making these life-changing decisions with her friend instead of me. I confronted her about it, and she said she was just scared of how I'd react. She thought I'd be unsupportive. That hurt even more. After everything we've been through, she still doesn't trust me to stand by her. It's like she's got this whole other life planned out, and I'm just an afterthought. But here's where it gets really messy. I found out that the promotion wasn't the only thing she was hiding. She's been seeing someone else. Someone from her work who's also moving to the new location. I guess that explains why she was so sure I'd come with her. She needed a backup plan in case things didn't work out with the other guy. I was devastated. I couldn't believe she would do this to me. I thought we were solid, but she was living a double life. And the worst part, I still love her. I'm angry and hurt, but I can't just turn off my feelings. I told her I knew about the affair, and she broke down. She said it was a mistake, that she was confused and scared about the future. She begged for my forgiveness. I don't know why, but I forgave her. Maybe it's because I'm desperate not to lose her, or maybe I'm just weak. But I told her we could work through it. I said I'd move with her and we'd start fresh. I know it sounds crazy, but I want to believe we can get past this. So we're packing up our lives and getting ready for the move. It's a big step, and I'm still not sure it's the right one. But I'm willing to try. I'm willing to put my trust in her again, even though she's broken it before. I guess that's what love is, right? Being willing to take a chance, even when you've been hurt. Anyway, that's where things stand right now. We're heading into a new chapter, and I'm just hoping it's a happier one. Thanks for reading. My housemate's boyfriend stole my lost sex toy and then robbed us, so I got him arrested and changed the locks. I made a rule that my housemate's boyfriend could never come to our house again, as I caught Lily's boyfriend using my lost sex toy. To explain, I had ordered a few intimacy toys, and at around the same time John was staying over at the house, and he took the package from the delivery guy since I wasn't there, and he never told me it was delivered. I assumed it never got delivered, so I contacted the company that I bought it from, and they gave me a refund since the toys I wanted were no longer available. Then, 3 weeks later, I walked in on John using it in the bathroom. He supposedly forgot to lock the door, and I had just unexpectedly come back home and I was bursting to go, so I rushed into the shared bathroom and walked in on him going to town with it. I screamed. He screamed, and then we were both awkwardly silent for what felt like an eternity, but was actually only 2 to 5 seconds. He then rushed out of the bathroom and into Lily's room. When I finally got my bearings, I realized that the toy he was using was mine. We got into a massive argument, and at around the same time, Lily came back from getting groceries. I told her what John was doing, and they had a fight. Since then, John has been banned from the house or anywhere I am. Before his perverted thievery, he and I had a civil relationship, and obviously the civility has been shattered by the lost sex toy incident. It's been 1 year and 3 months since the incident, and Lily has asked me to lift the ban and allow him access to the house for a few hours a week, and only when she's with him. She said he'd never be alone in the house, and that she'll always monitor his behavior, and he's also not allowed to sleep over. Look, before John, we never had an issue, and we've lived peacefully together for years. I understand the ban has made life a bit difficult for her, but I feel like what he did is an unforgivable act, and I have zero trust in him to behave like a civilized person. But I also don't want to lose Lily. She's a great housemate, she pays the bills on time, she cleans and keeps things tidy. She's a caring and fun person. Oh, and we even share cooking and groceries duties. She cooks 3 days out of the week, and I also cook 3 days out of the week, and on Sunday we fend for ourselves. But even then we often share a meal. I enjoy living with her. I'd hate to ruin it by letting my inability to get over what happened ruin things for us. I also feel like I'm being a terrible person. Am I being a weenie and ruining a good relationship with a good housemate? Is the continuation of the ban and jerk move? Edit. To steal other people's intimates is, in my opinion, a perverted act regardless of their gender. There's nothing wrong with a man using a sex toy that is rightfully his, but it is perverted to steal the intimacy toys of other people. If this were a woman who stole it, I'd also call her a deviant. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. It is your living space and a place where you should feel safe and carefree, not worry about some thieving deviant in your flat. And honestly, the stealing. Are we talking about a mother getting diapers or food for her baby? No, then there is no excuse here. Using it in a bathroom, the only bathroom, instead of her room? Just no. He has no regard or respect for you or her, for that matter. A normal person would never dream of doing something like that in a shared bathroom without locking the door. What was he thinking? Comment 2. Nope. He opened your mail and then stole the contents. It doesn't matter what it was. That's weird AF behavior. Then he pleasured himself in a shared bathroom without locking the door. Was that an accident? Or did he want to get caught? Does he usually lock the door even if he's just peeing? Why didn't he keep your stolen things at his own home and use them there? I personally wouldn't feel comfortable. and I'd think back on all of the other things he's done and probably see them in a different light. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around for this update. So, Lily's been begging me to reconsider the ban on John, and I've been trying to stand my ground. But things took a turn when she said she might have to move out if things didn't change. I didn't want to lose a good housemate, so I caved and said John could come over when she was there. Big mistake. The first few times he came over, it was okay. Awkward, but okay. Then one day I came home early and guess what? John's there, alone in the living room with my laptop open. He said Lily had to step out and he was just waiting. I didn't buy it. I checked my laptop later, and some files were missing. Important stuff. I confronted Lily, and she didn't believe me. Said I was paranoid, I was fuming. I knew John was behind it, but I had no proof. Then, out of nowhere, my bank called. There were charges I didn't make. Someone had my credit card info. I put 2 and 2 together. It had to be John. I told Lily, and this time she was shaken. She checked her stuff, and sure enough, she was missing money too. We called the cops, and it turned out John had a history of this. He was arrested, and Lily was devastated. She apologized to me for not believing me and for everything that had happened. She said she'd move out, that she couldn't face me after all this. But I didn't want her to go. Despite everything, she was still a good housemate, and none of this was her fault. So I told her she could stay, but we needed new rules. No more guests without both of us agreeing. She agreed, and things have been quiet since then. I guess in the end, things worked out. John got what was coming to him, and Lily and I managed to patch things up. It's been a rough few months, but I'm hoping we can move past this and get back to normal. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.